Hi, I'm Dario, your Progcast host, and you are listening to the 100th episode of the Progcast. Welcome back to another episode of the Progcast. It's not just any other episode, it's the 100th episode of the Progcast. I'm super excited to have a full room of enthusiastic Zoom guests here, and I want to introduce you to all of them, starting with my wonderful producer and co-host Randy on the other side of Munich, and cool to have you back on air. It's been a while.
Great to be here. Thank you for inviting me to the 100th episode. Can't believe it.
And next up, a colleague from the Progspace who is actually helping me a lot with the lists, with the releases. That also helps us putting together the Friday top 5 that Randy has started establishing a couple of weeks back. And he's also the drummer in the band Ashbreather, and released the debut album with his band Ashbreather this year from Canada. Is Colin MacAndrew.
Hello.
First time on the Progcast. Great to have you here. Moving on.
Very excited.
Moving on. Seeing to my left, right. I don't know. It's weird. Calling from I don't actually know, from the UK or from Russia. From the UK, it's Marjana from iamthemorning. It's her first time on the Progcast. Then we have.
Congratulations on having me.
Thank you.
Well said.
In the middle, we have from Norway, returning guest Agnete. She's probably the most featured person on the Progcast accidentally. We had her on the very first episode and on the 20th episode when you visited Munich, right?
Yeah, I'm a veteran.
Absolutely. I totally forgot to mention the releases Marjana had this year. That was at the very beginning of this year in January, right? Your solo album.
But yeah, it feels like another life. So
your debut solo album, Sleepwalking, and just a week ago, more or less, the new I Am the Morning EP, Counting the Ghosts, dropped. And Agnete also had releases this year, not with her main band, Mortem, though. That was last year. The last Mortem release was Mercury, the 20th anniversary edition, yeah. And this year you were singing on the Fleetburner, self-titled Fleetburner debut, which was really cool. And also the last Autumn Tears album, The Air Below the Water, that was released in January, if I did my homework correctly.
Yeah, you did.
We have another returning guest on the Progcast, Ross Jennings from Haken and Novena.
Hello.
Also, with both bands, he had releases this year. Right. 11th Hour, the debut full length.
That way, 11th Hour was released in March, and then in July, Virus.
The yellow one.
During a virus, which was super not ironic at all.
I'm sure you guys knew about it. You had some inside information none of us knew about.
Just a big marketing campaign.
Yeah, it was just a marketing campaign. The entire COVID-19 is just marketing. 100%.
Shut up, Simen. It's not your time yet. First, I want to introduce Andy Robison from Ihlo, or Ihlo, whatever you want to say. Also, first time on the Progcast. And now Simen from Arkentype from Norway.
Hello.
You just released a single this year. What's wrong with you?
I'm sorry.
Arbiter's call, but we might talk about an album later or soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
last but not least, I'm super happy to introduce that Joe Payne to you all. I have to thank actually Rowan Stolt from the Flower Kings for getting to my attention that you released your debut solo album in August this year, called By Name by Nature, and I have to admit I've been listening almost nonstop the last weeks. So great to have you on the show, Joe.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the very flattering words.
So yeah, what a crazy and eventful year, even though probably most of it was spent home by most of us. But yeah, we apart from album and EP and single releases, there was something else going on, or a lot going on in the music world, despite being deprived of actual live concerts. There has been a lot of live streams, of course. So that would be our first topic I want to talk about. And starting off with Marjana, actually, because yeah, I knew you were gonna be surprised, because I seem to remember way before this thing started, this COVID thing. You did some live streams. I remember you did an amazing concert from Russia, from a concert hall. You streamed it live, and so you were doing it before it was cool.
That's right. Well, because we were always located in Russia, we were kind of isolated from everybody. Because it's not that easy to get out of the country or get anybody in the country. So we had to resort to live streams to, well, show our audience in Europe and like just other countries how it can sound if it's back where we're based. So yeah, I actually miss doing that because me and Gleb are now in different countries, so we can't get in one spot to have live streams, and I don't really have a proper setup yet for recording because I just moved. So it's been a while since we did those. But it's always such a great experience, and I do those on my Patreon each month, which is also really, really nice. It's always like lo-fi and unplugged, but it builds up this very special connection with like audience and with people, and I think it's better than nothing, but it's also kind of, it has a charm in its own, you know.
Yeah, and you are putting out also a lot of small little videos that you recorded at home for your patrons first, and then maybe the ones who are not supporting you through Patreon yet get to see it also at a later point, right?
Well, yeah, I always find it very interesting to play other people's songs because I play a lot of covers, because it kind of teaches me a lot of things that I wouldn't do myself, like different, you know, the ways of building a melody or stuff like that. So I kind of see it as a form of education for myself, but also I kind of try to kind of practice my guitar skills, which aren't really great. So it's very rewarding because I don't think much about myself and my playing, but other people might, because like my Patreons seem to enjoy it. And it's always very sweet, and it kind of gives you confidence to just keep doing it.
Yeah, tying in with the Patreon approach, I think Joe can tell us also a little bit. I think you did some Patreon exclusive live streams this year. Is that correct?
Yeah. I think we're both doing very similar things actually, because it seems to now be the thing that is making what I do sustainable, which is all any of us really want, isn't it? We just want to know that we're safe to do what we're doing and not feel threatened by just the fear of going into horrible debts and having to get a real job. So I've been making quite a lot of my content exclusive, especially when it comes to the live streaming. Something that I was always doing anyway was live streaming pretty well absolutely every gig I was doing to patrons, depending on what tier level they were at. But then with the lockdown, I just thought, you know what? People don't even have the option now to come to a show. So I'm just going to start doing these live streams. As long as we're locked down, as long as it's impossible for people to come to a show, everyone's going to be allowed to watch these live streams at any level. And I just thought that was going to be the best way to bring everyone together. And it's lovely seeing like the discussions that take place, and I join in with those during the shows, and like between each song, like answer questions or join in the banter or whatever. So I've really enjoyed doing them, because one of the things, as was said before, like if you want to keep it interesting, you've got to start doing something different for every show, because it's not like a tour where you can play the exact same show in a bunch of different venues and just work on that one set. Like every time you do a live stream, you kind of have to be able to offer something new with it, because it's already happened, it already existed. Like anyone from anywhere could have accessed it. So what's new about the next thing? So I've been doing a lot of stuff with covers as well, and you know, it's taught me a lot too about songwriting, and I it's given me a lot of great new ideas, so I'm kind of magpieing now of other people's songs.
All right, yeah, a little bit different approach we had with the Mortem live stream. That was, let me check, that was in May, right? End of May,
Yeah.
and we were happy and proud to present it as the Progspace, with the Progspace. And you did it in Oslo, in a pub, in a like live music club.
Yeah.
What was your experience at Agnete?
I mean, it's a very strange feeling. I mean, obviously we're not the Maddies aren't the best band at the digital stuff. We are slightly dinosaurs. We tend to enjoy doing old school things, but trying to do a gig like that, it's a very strange feeling to be playing to an empty room. You know?
Yeah.
It took a couple of songs, because I feel like when you're singing, you are speaking to people, and who are you going to speak to? There's the sound guy and the producer and nobody else. So it took a couple of songs to kind of get into it, but I think it's a good substitute. It's not the same. It doesn't give me the same thing as a live gig does, but it's a fantastic opportunity for people who live on other continents, for instance, or in the situation where we are now. For us, we've talked about doing more live streams, but we're writing a new album, so we kind of prioritize that. But there's also this idea that there has to be a certain quality to the streams, audio and video wise. I've seen some live streams here and there, which I thought, this is not a good idea. I mean, obviously you can see the band, but it sounds horrible. No matter how well the band is playing it, this is not, I wouldn't put this out, you know?
Yeah.
And since we're the kind of people who have proper jobs and huge amounts of debt, so which means that we kind of would rather than wait and get an opportunity to do things well. But I've been live streaming loads of stuff with all my Salo projects up here, sort of locally live streaming. That's fun. That's more for my dad to sit and watch a couple of doors down, you know.
All right. A third approach to live streaming, we had a very good example with Ihlo, the new Instasis EP that we were also super proud to present at the first Progspace Online Festival. And that was obviously pre-recorded, and we put it together. Our own very own van put it together, the whole live stream. And yeah, how was your experience with it, Andy? I know you put a lot of work into it.
Well, yeah, thanks again for like putting us all together, giving us the opportunity to do that, like for smaller level bands and everything. Doing it was super stressful because for us, we're kind of still at the level where we're working jobs regularly, you know, like 5 days a week and stuff. So finding the time to put all of that together in a quality way was really, really tough, especially because we're all split really far apart across the UK. Like most of us are up in Scotland, the rest down in England. So figuring out the best and most quality way of doing that was super difficult, but kind of really happy with how it came out. In terms of like doing more things in the future, it would be good to like keep expanding on that, because you can't do the same thing over and over, you know.
So how was the feedback for you? Because I know you despite being still a new band, an up and coming band, you have managed to gather a really rabid online following, and it showed definitely during the live chat, during the streaming premiere. So how was the feedback for you guys?
It was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Like, because you know, like we haven't really done that much, so anytime that we're getting that sort of feedback that's like really positive, like overwhelmingly positive, it's just still trying to figure out how to process that kind of stuff, you know.
Ross, you're a kind of a veteran compared to Andy, with more than 10 years with Haken on the road already, obviously, and also a couple of years with Novena. But of course, you've toured with Haken extensively in the last years, and you also been part of a couple of these pre-recorded live streams with mostly with Novena, on the Prog Report from home, on the TechFest from home, and there's gonna be an amazing surprise at the Progspace Online Festival Holiday Edition, which will have happened when this episode will come out on Monday after. What do you think about live streams, and what are your experiences that you did this year, and what are your thoughts about it?
I mean, for Haken, it was super difficult because we're an international band. We have members across the Atlantic, so it's impossible for us to really get together and in one space and do something like that. And for Haken, I don't think we were prepared to do a split screen thing from different houses. So, I mean, that was put on the side. But we were, Charlie and I were able to record an acoustic cover of the Queen song for the Prog from Home. And I think at that time, the lockdown was in its infancy, and we were raising money for charities and frontline workers. So it was a really important thing. What concerned me as time went on, though, a lot of people were doing these kind of streams for free. And yes, the charities are fantastic, and I will always support them, but obviously musicians need to make a living as well. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, yeah, I think the up and coming festival that we're doing, again, I've done a couple of tracks for this and for free, for the, you know, at the kindness of our hearts. And but I think December will bookend that kind of mentality, I think. And yes, Patreon is where it's at, and ticketed streaming, I think, for the near future, I think that's where it has to be. Obviously, quality control was mentioned, and I think that's really important as well. I've looked at Leprosy's and Tesseract's recent live streams, and their huge budgets have gone into that. And if you can afford it, great. But yeah, it's a fine line. Of, you know, if you're charging people to watch these things, and then you want to give enough back for that experience, I think. So yeah, it's been a thing it's been on my mind a lot, and luckily for me, I've had a couple of records to release, so I haven't had to be too involved in live streams for the time being. But
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
actually. I remember when, like, you said the lockdown was in its infancy when the Prog Report from Home, for example, started, and all this at the beginning of the year, March, April, May, and I think, well, I can only speak for myself, but for us to still be in this situation, or again be in this situation, back then I wasn't sure what to expect later this year, and one important thing also is that I think both Randy and I we talked about it here on the show, and also personally, that just what you said, to think about, that musicians can't and won't and shouldn't do it for free for too long, in order to not give the audience a the audience, or the people listening to streaming the live streams, they get used to it being for free so quickly. So we did have that that concern back then as well, and Randy.
I just wanted to say, one live streaming experience I thought was interesting this year was what Catatonia did, because if I remember correctly, we paid to watch the live stream from Catatonia. Dario, you and I watched this together, I think.
Yeah.
And I recall we paid like €10 to watch it, and then they released an album of it, which I thought was an interesting. I don't know what you guys all think of that, but. That was like 2 revenue streams that they got from one live event, and I thought that was like great as a fan too, that you could watch like an exclusive live thing that not everybody could see for free, and then you could also buy an LP of it, like a vinyl version of that later. So of course the quality was important, right? They had to record it great. They did it in a studio, so I mean that helps. Camera wise, as the camera guy here, I will retain my thoughts about that. But I think this is an interesting idea for artists to be able to sell this in multiple markets in a way.
Yeah, I mean, we had Jonas on the Progcast as well, and he said it was born, like the release of the album as it is was born out of demand, because people were asking them, the fans were asking for them to release it as an album, and they said, okay, we have the recordings, we can do that, no problem.
It's interesting to see how it's going to continue. I think, if we are able to open up venues and tour again, that I still think that hybrid shows are going to be a thing. I believe so. So people will come to the shows, but also have the opportunity to buy tickets online. I think it's going to be the norm going forward. We'll see. But,
I think it should be. Like, the one good thing that's come out of all of this is that I think it's given the chance, like, for me, is more of like a fan perspective. It's kind of like shaking up how these kind of things can be done, like, in the industry, and like adjusting, like they're really setting like a standard for how they should be done, with like the Lepre streams and the Tesseract one yesterday, which was unreal.
I still have to watch that. I can't wait. Simen, you are not only in the prog world at home as a musician, you are also a session guy for many different artists. Did you have any bigger live streams, like bigger than we in the prog world are known to?
No, I haven't done. Well, I did the Shining live stream. And I did like the tech stuff for that, like the image, and I also did. They had a live stream and gig yesterday as well, which I also did. So I don't think I've done any like super big commercialized things, but I've definitely done a lot of smaller, like local live streams that has been making myself or doing so I can survive. So basically been doing a lot of like live stream tech stuff this year as well. And speaking of the like the Shining live stream, because we filmed and multi-tracked the entire thing, and I have actually edited the DVD or the Blu-ray release of it as well. So there's coming a Blu-ray release, I think like April next year or something.
Okay.
But that was intense. We did it in what is it called, heavy water plant? Is that what is it called in English? A heavy water plant from like the Second World War, and it was just insane. It was like that plant when the Norwegian forces like bombed it. That was kind of like what broke World War II. Like it was kind of one of those things that like really screwed up the Germans' plans.
So Agnete, maybe you guys still have the tracks from your live stream. The fans are waiting for the live release.
Yeah.
Oh, we do. I mean, we're sitting on shitloads of live material. I mean, both from the anniversary gig we did in 2019 with full camera production and audio, but we also have the files from the live stream. But again, I think this idea of the quality thing is what is hindering us the most, I think, because if we would want to release it, it would have to be a version that we had mixed properly and done something with. And at the moment, we're kind of a lot more interested in finishing new songs. And since, I mean, that's the good thing about not earning a living as a musician, I guess. I mean, I would prefer that, but the good thing about not being dependent on music for my income means that I can choose to do what I find most interesting. I see that releasing the live streams and those kind of things would be a lot smarter revenue-wise and would perhaps be a good idea like that, but it wouldn't matter that much, pun intended, to us. So we're kind of, at the moment, just our heads are in the new album. So we're going to do that before we do anything else, I think.
Artistically, it's not something that your souls would pour into that right now. Your artistic souls that you want to get out there.
I mean, I would rather prioritize the sound or the releases from the anniversary gig rather than just a regular live stream. That was more just like a concert for me.
Yeah.
And I can see that it would be interesting to have, but it doesn't feel like something special that I would warrant a DVD release, for instance.
Yeah. Shameless.
If we get around to it, we'll just put it out in some way, I suppose. But I want to make a new album. I want to make new music.
I think you have a documentary coming out too, so.
Really? Oh yes, there's something maybe happening next year.
The documentary, we should wait for that.
A very nice documentary with particularly good camera work, right, Randy?
Let's hope so.
I also have a very unpopular opinion about live streams that I'd like to share.
Yes, please.
Yeah, and that is live streams that have been pre-recorded, edited, mixed, and fixed, and then they portray it as a live concert. I just hate it. I have nothing against doing a pre-recorded live stream and saying, hey, this is pre-recorded, we're premiering it live. That's super cool. But I was watching the August Burns Red live stream yesterday, and it's just like I'm just sitting there the entire time. This is too good to be live, like 100% live. It's too perfect. There's not like a single snare and kick flam during the entire like set. And I know that drummer doesn't play. Yeah, I mean, he plays really good, but it's like no one plays that tight. And it's just like being portrayed as a live gig, like we're doing this live, but there's no evidence of it being actually live. And it's super, super annoying. I hate it.
It's a weird perspective because like, as like the artist side, you know, you want to have that quality to a certain level, and it's really difficult sometimes to let those like cracks slip through.
Yeah.
But then like as the fan, you know, yeah, you can like pick them out easily if it's just been like overproduced, and it's a bit of a shame. And yeah, it's really weird with everything being like tagged as like a live stream now as well. You can, yeah.
I think for me, like one of the reasons why I keep most of my live streams exclusive to my patrons is because I'm always taking a new risk. So there's always something or multiple things in the set that I am absolutely bricking myself about performing.
But that's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah,
that's the beauty.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it special. That's what makes it the first time unique thing. But knowing that, like basically my closest circle of followers, they're the only ones that are going to see it. They're supporting what I'm doing because they love it for whatever reason they love it, and they're not out to criticize it. They're not out to kind of cast shadow on anything. They're going to be kind, so I can take these risks with them. But yeah, like to pre-record it, I don't really see the point in that because where's the fun?
I want to say something.
Yes, please.
I'm unmuted. That's good. So I agree with Joe about how this, like the live feeling of the streams, that you are like terrified of playing some stuff because maybe you're not quite as fluent with it or something. It shows this certain vulnerability, which I think people appreciate a lot.
Yeah.
Because if you keep watching the polished performances every time, it gets really stale really quick.
That's what studio recordings are for.
Yeah.
Well, see, the thing is, sometimes I like, if there's a tour of the band that I really love, I go to see a few dates. Not very often, but that happens. And most of the time with really professional bands, it's exactly the same show you see every night. So you kind of stop seeing the reason. And one of the first live streams that I've watched actually in this whole Corona thing was the festival and the Ihlo performance, because I'm friends with Michael. And I didn't register that it was pre-recorded. I was like, okay, I wonder how are they going to do this? Like a bunch of bands doing live streams in a festival. And then I saw Andy on a chat on YouTube typing something, and I was like, okay, that's not right.
Yeah, it kind of broke the illusion a little bit.
Yeah, it's fun though.
Yeah.
So I guess that we didn't do our job properly advertising this as non-live stream.
I just don't read well, so
I think that's something that a lot of people have been thinking throughout the year. Because I saw Kairos were doing their live stream things, and they did, I don't even know how many, like at least 6 or 7. And every time there was always people in the chat like, "Whoa, how are you doing this? Like, you live in completely different locations. How's your internet speed so fast that you can do this?"
Yeah, but that was also one of the best examples of like making a virtual tour with a home budget, so to speak. The only other virtual tour that comes to mind that I followed a bit was Enslaved, and they have a bigger budget. They were sponsored by Summer Breeze and some of Roadburn, some of the biggest festivals, and did some really also some thematically different live streams, playing different stuff. But that's also what Kairos did, and that was just a lot of fun every single time with the old stuff, with the new stuff, with covers and everything. It's a great way to keep your audience engaged. But then again, we're coming back to what Ross said. It's also becoming it could become quickly that people are so used to getting their live streams for free that there's no way for the bands who did it for so long for free to start asking for tickets, for money, for access. That could be the danger that then people are gonna say they were doing it for free until now. Why are they asking for money now? I
think that would probably just be a minority, though. Really, maybe like a vocal minority, because people want to support.
Yeah, I think it's actually really amazing how many people do just like it, because I think we kind of make the assumption that there's a perceived value for anything that's on the internet as being worthless and free. But actually, there's a lot of people out there that really do understand the value of music and see what we're doing as something that they, if they didn't have it, if they didn't have music in their lives, then their lives would be so much worse off for it. So they do know like that they need to just do their little bit to support individual artists in just enough, and they only have to do it in a small way, but it all adds up. And there's hundreds, thousands of people out there who really get it, and those people we just have to do as much as we can to make sure that we thank them properly for it, make sure that they know that we're not taking them for granted, because without them we can't do what we do, and I guess they get as much out of it as we do. It's a really nice fair exchange, but there are people that understand, there are people that get it, I think. So
I just wanted to add, I suspect it's different for different genres as well. I mean, certainly for the prog scene, I feel like it's more like this sort of family thing where everybody sort of tries to support each other and stuff. So, for fans of prog who are already on a kind of a fringe genre, paying for stuff is maybe not as big of a deal, also because we're more like metal fans are more likely to pay for merch or buy things because they want to own something that the band made versus other genres. I mean, I don't know that, but I just assume that it might be harder for other genres to get people to pay for streams like pop and maybe country and stuff like this.
Yeah, and all prog fans are software engineers and have shit tons of money. So,
but I teach lower secondary school, right? And the kids there, they don't have no idea who plays the music they listen to, right? They don't care who's the artist. Most of them just generally refer to playlists, and they have no conscience relationship to who actually made the music they're listening to. It doesn't matter to them. It's just a song on a list, and that's why it's nice to be playing metal or prog.
I've been doing substitute teaching in the cultural school, kulturskolen. Yeah. And whenever I ask drum kids who's your favorite artist, they're like, I don't know.
Exactly, right.
Do you have a favorite song? I don't know. Okay, so what music do you listen to? I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are you here? You're here because you want to play music. That's why you want to play drums, because you want to play music. And I remember when I was a kid, it was like, if someone asked me, who is your favorite band? I would go, Kiss. They're the best band in the entire world. There's no other band than Kiss, And it's just no, I asked, in 1 week, I asked 30 kids if they had a favorite band, and none of them said yes. None of them knew what they were listening to. So it's younger generation.
It's these days, honestly.
The younger generation. It's becoming an old grumpy man.
I was actually just talking to a family friend because I was showing their son the guitar, and I was giving him some distortion, and because he can't play yet. So I thought, but if you're young and you just hear wow, I can create this crazy noisy sound, and I could tell it made something in his mind, oh wow, I'm making this, I made fire, you know what I mean? When you hear this sound for the first time. But then I thought, but if they don't really listen to rock at home, if they listen to more pop driven stuff, he may never have the urge like we did to I got to play that riff, I got to learn that song, because that band means something to me. I feel like if you don't come up in maybe the rock genre in general, where there's something simple like drums or guitar or bass that you can kind of follow, it might be harder to connect to an instrument because you don't, it's like mimicking your idols in a way.
Yeah.
So
This reminded me, I once took my nephew to have a drum lesson. He was 6 at the time, and he was asking me for years to learn to play drums. So I found him a teacher, and I took him to the lesson. And so he really wanted to just bang on the proper kit, but he was like given like this little one to practice. Yeah, because he really was excited to be making a lot of noise. And then when we left, I asked him if he wanted to do that again. And he was like, well, yes, if it's not going to be that hard. So I was explaining to a 6-year-old this concept that you need to work really hard to be good at something. And yeah, it was
that was actually the question of the family in a way, was like, is guitar something that you can learn and quickly get results? And I think maybe compared to like violin, yeah, it's a little bit easier than like picking up that kind of instrument. But I felt like if you have songs to learn, if you know that you like this riff or that riff, then you always can be at least striving for that. Whereas like piano lessons or something can become more mundane if you're a young person and you just have to learn like how you're supposed to learn. With guitar, it was always like, well, I want to play this Nirvana song or that Green Day song, yeah.
I agree. The first thing I ever learned was the intro of Love Again by Kiss.
Yeah.
I just had to learn it.
Oh.
I think I come from a completely different world to the rest of you, because when I was growing up, I had piano lessons. I was like classically trained on the piano, but I liked that because it was quite mathematical. It was more about reading music, but not necessarily really about understanding it. But then from a popular culture side of things, whereas you guys were going, that's my favorite guitar riff, I'm going to learn that. I was going, oh, that's my favorite dance routine, I'm going to learn that. So I was like busy doing the Macarena or something, Anyway.
I hope that's in your live streams.
Well, if it gets requested, then it will be. Yeah.
We've all done the Macarena at some point. No reason to feel embarrassed.
If you've been to a wedding, then
Okay. Well, if we're ever backstage together, it's happening. Okay.
Well, the song that I learned on bass first was "Money" from Pink Floyd. So that was a bass
7/4 time, nice.
That I always wanted to, that I needed to figure out when I got my first bass. And I was also trained classically on the cello before, like when I was growing up. I was mostly listening to classical music, so Pink Floyd was my gateway drug into this pit hole of prog. Yeah, speaking of the prog year 2020, there was so many amazing releases. It was ridiculous, and I have a huge list, but we're so many people, and we can't, unfortunately, give all our top 50 or something, because that would take us until next week or something. So yeah, I ask you beforehand to think of one favorite release of this year, and it doesn't necessarily have to be prog. And I know Agnete will have to leave us shortly, but that's why I will start with you. What was your favorite release in 2020?
I mean, the trouble with me is I listen very little to music at all, So I was thinking about it yesterday, and I figured I'd just mention the last album I actually bought. I recently just got in the mail the vinyl of the new Matterhorn album. So I want to plug my fellow countrymen. It's a really, really cool album as well. So it's going to be under the tree for some other people I know as well. So that's a really, really cool release that everybody should check out. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. You just sneak out when you have to get going. It was great to have you on the anniversary episode, and
I'll go record. I'm recording the next some contributions for the next Autumn Tears album, so that's why I have to leave.
Yeah, that's great, and you have, as you just said, you will have some releases coming up in 2021. So I'm sure we'll see you again in this theater here.
Thank you so much for having me, and really nice to meet everybody else as well. Have a good day.
Take care.
Bye, Agnete.
Bye.
So, who wants to go next with their favorite release of 2020? Any volunteers?
We're doing volunteers now.
I will highly recommend Jacob Collier to anyone who's not familiar with his work. He released, he's been making a 4-part concept under the banner the Jesse, DJESSE, volumes 1 to 4. He released volume 3 this year. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's not necessarily prog, but any prog musician will appreciate the kind of expertise that goes into the production. But it's he's actually sort of the from the Quincy Jones alumni, so he's kind of gone through the ranks through that direction. So he's got very much influences from that side of things, the pop, soul, Michael Jackson side of things, but it's just phenomenal. It's just so intricate, and if you follow him, he often kind of goes through his Logic projects and shows you all the different elements that go into his tracks, and it's just thousands of things, and it's just absolutely insane. But the music's really catchy, and he's like pitch perfect, and phenomenal records, those, if you haven't heard them. So that was one of my favorites from this year for sure.
Colin, let's take you into the conversation. You didn't say anything about the live streams and anything, so now's your chance.
Well, not like I really partake in much in doing live streams or anything like that. Just, I don't know, helping out whatever I could with the Progspace releases. And I don't know, my band, like, we have just been, I don't know, like, because the pandemic has pretty much started right when we released our first album. So, and it was just the timing, like, we even had shows organized to get this album up properly, like to, you know, kind of promote it and have CDs and everything, but then everything just kind of canceled on us. So we had to do everything digitally, and surprisingly it did pretty well, not gonna lie. I mean, like, for a, you know, starting upcoming band and whatnot, literally just kind of out of the blue or whatever, I guess. But yeah, I guess I can't complain too much in that aspect. But yeah, live streaming, we're just kind of like the band at this point where we just want to keep writing music and try to get more releases out. Like, we have potentially 2 new releases that we may get out next year or something like that. So it's like, I think if we can just get more music out, then that's as much as we think we can do for the people, if that's what they want, I guess. If they don't, well, that's too bad. We're releasing it anyways. So that's what we want to do.
All right. So what was, I know you listen to even more music than I do. So what is your top 1 album of the year? I think I know it.
Yeah, this one is, I feel like it's a kind of like an unpopular one that, well, I wouldn't say unpopular. It's somewhat getting some attention, but an unpopular choice, I would say. But even for me, it wasn't one that I expected to fully grasp, as generally I've been like falling for a lot of more like avant-garde, black and death metal stuff and like prog death and whatnot. Well, this one kind of falls under the label of prog death, but it's Alcastum by Ertendum. They're actually fellow Canadians, and I wasn't even familiar of the band until hearing about them recently, saying they had a new album. And just the style of prog death wasn't really something that first grasped me. So my first impression was thinking, oh, this might be, you know, one of those like, you know, decent average mellow death albums or whatever. And after getting into the first few songs, I was just kind of like, wow, there's something about this is like really grabbing me. And I wasn't sure what it was. I guess it was just the way that they really added in, like the production was spot on. It was done by Christian Donaldson of The Grid, who's like a guitarist of Cryptopsy. He's like one of the big metal names in production in Montreal. And you know, like he's worked with like Beyond Creation and all that stuff. But yeah, thinking about that production style that was done for a melodic death metal band, a prog death band, just crystal clear production. It sounded really heavy, the crunchy guitars and stuff, the type of stuff that, that made me fall in love, say, with like bands like Persephone, for example. Like they have that, heavy sound in the melodic death area, and that's what grabs me sometimes with like those types of bands, that they're able to balance those heavy raw death metal riffs with the catchiness of melodic death metal. And that was something that really grabbed me, just like catchy choruses, great riffs, great drumming, just like they blended everything so well that it grabbed it just in every aspect. That just made me realize it's just like I could probably say this is a perfect album pretty much. And just like, yeah, like every time I revisit it, I'm just questioning, is this my favorite? It's like, yeah, I think it is. I've had some albums where I listen to like, damn, this is a really good album, but I haven't particularly had anything top this one for this year, I don't think. So that's my choice.
They also have some guest appearances there, most notably from Kobe Farhi from Orphaned Land, right?
That is true, yeah. It's kind of funny enough that I've never even listened to Orphan Land yet, and you would think for this band's, one of this band's like biggest influences, that I would imagine, as they got the guy from the band to play on their album. Yeah. So, and considering this was like my favorite album of the year, I don't know how or why I never gave them a chance yet. I guess just my mind is so focused on so many things, I just kind of lose track of these kind of things, I guess.
You got homework to do, buddy.
As if I already don't.
That's true. Joe, what about you? I think you're coming a little bit less from the prog angle than most of us. So it's gonna be interesting what kind of music you are gonna recommend to us.
Okay, so I am gonna pick something that has has appeared a lot within the prog critics' choices for the year anyway. So hopefully other people agree with me on this too. Now I'm a little bit biased because this person has become a very, very good friend of mine, and she was supposed to be supporting me on my tour this year, if it all happened. We managed to do one date together. So, but yeah, so Miss Amy Burks and her album All That I Am and All That I Was. I just love this album. I think she has such a rare quality, particularly with regards to her voice, because I feel that there's quite a common theme that we get with most progressive rock singers, which is there's a tendency to sing everything in a very kind of like straight way. And I guess that the reason for that is because we like produce music that has a lot of detail going on. And so if we start kind of over expressing, then it's all just too cluttered. So maybe that's why. Maybe we do it to kind of just help everything fit together in a complementary way. So Amy has this really, really expressive voice. And I know she gets compared to Kate Bush a lot, but really I think Amy is a whole different entity within herself. Like her songs, she writes very catchy songs, which again is like something that I don't come across that often in progressive rock music. And like there's one song in particular that I can't listen to it without crying. I have to have a little cry because it moves me so much. And I guess it's like, it's one of those songs where it feels so simple that you can't believe you didn't write it yourself, because it's just like, why didn't I think of that? It's so obvious, but it's so moving and it cuts straight through all your sensibilities. I'm just so moved by it. And that song's called Unlike the Heart. So if you don't have time to listen to the whole album, skip to that song, Unlike the Heart, and I promise you it's going to move you as much as it moves me. I
will definitely check out the whole album, because I mean, I know a little bit of her voice already because she's featured on your album as well, right? On the song Love Not the Same.
I told you I was biased.
That's perfectly all right. Because what I've heard of her on that song sounds really amazing. So I'm really looking forward to checking that out. Who's next? Simen, go for it.
All right. Well, since I don't really listen to prog that much, like in general, I think like one of the only like full-on albums I've listened to this year is Virus. So I think that's probably the only one I've listened to in its entirety. Because usually I like the thing when you're a full-time musician is that whenever I listen to music, it's always for a reason. Almost, it's like, and I don't have that much time to just listen to music because whenever I do it, it's like for learning a song, learning for a gig, for a recording. We recently had to learn Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You."
I wonder why.
I wonder why. You know, so there's a lot of stuff like that going, and there's a lot of artists that I played on and with this year have a lot of stuff coming out for 2021. And a lot of the stuff that I have done, which I really like and has put a lot of energy into, haven't been released yet. So it's kind of hard to... But I want to say Wes from... I never know how to say that name. Frailkill? That EP is fucking ridiculous.
I didn't even know that he has a new EP out, and actually Colin alerted me like a couple of days after it dropped that we had missed it with our releases of the week.
It's so good. I listened. He gave it to me a couple of months back. So I've been listening to that for quite some time, and it's ridiculous.
I listened to it yesterday, and I was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah, I know.
I saw him at Euroblast last year.
Yeah.
Crazy guy.
That album is really good as well. Or it's an EP though, and the thing that the thing that I think is really cool about it, and I talked with Wes a lot about this, is that he wanted to do everything for himself. It was like he didn't want to hire anyone to do the drums. He wanted to program them himself. He programmed the bass. He did everything himself except the mixing and mastering. And he was just like, I just want this to be the craziest creative outlet for me ever.
Even though the guys he usually plays with together, Lang Zhao and
Yas Nakamura.
Yas Nomura. Yeah. They're crazy as well, and they put out one of my favorite albums of the previous year, the Resonance Project.
So good. That one is so good as well. So, and the cool thing that Wes told me is like, I will never perform this music live because it's impossible to play live. It's like one section of it, and it's not like necessarily technical impossible, but it's like one section. He has a guitar that's in like this tuning, and in the verse, the guitar just changes completely tuning, and it's like it would be impossible to do it live unless you have a lot of different musicians with instruments and stuff. So yeah, and it's the cool thing. Yeah, and the cool thing about it is it's an EP, which is like a continuous song. It's like 20 minutes of one song, which has like different parts, and I just really like it. It's so cool.
I will definitely listen to it again.
Yeah, so for 2020, my top ones will be Virus and Wes's EP.
I didn't pay him to say Virus, by the way.
Okay. For the record.
But yeah, we took Wes out on the road when we toured the US, when they were called Mammoth.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were blown away by those guys, and have been kind of keeping on track of what they're releasing. So yeah, he's one of the best guitarists out there at the moment, I would say.
He is ridiculous. He is so good. Just like the solo he did for the Christmas song we're doing. I just sent it to him.
Simen's just full of teasers here.
Yeah, but I sent it to him, and it was like 1 hour later. He just came. He'd sent me everything back, and was like, "Here you go. Here's my solo. Done." It's just like, you moron. He's just too good.
All right, Marjana, how about you?
God, I don't know how you guys manage to speak so much about music. It's like writing an entire review in just like one answer about your favorite album. I can't do that. This year was really intense because, well, I managed to move countries amidst like this entire thing going on, and we recorded the EP and I released the solo album, so I didn't really have that much headspace to listen to music really, because it's hard for me to be taking in the new things unless I really do have the emotional capacity to fully embrace it. So I think this one release really grasped my attention. It's also on Kscope. It's the release by Jonathan Hulten. He used to be in the band Tribulation, and he released this beautiful kind of acoustic folk sort of album, Chance from Another Place, I think it's called. And it is indeed, it's a very appropriate title for an album like that, because it's very out of this world. It's like captivating and very ethereal, and his voice is really beautiful, and songwriting is really just so dreamy and nice. Yeah, so I think this one would be my choice. I mean, obviously Lunatic Soul was great, but I already told Prog Mag about that. So, yeah,
cool.
It's a wonderful album.
I'm aware of the album, but I didn't have the time to check it out yet.
You should. It's so wonderful. It's not prog at all, but it's just so nice and dreamy, and it's like this mysterious, beautiful hug. I don't know.
This is the thing with prog musicians. Most of us don't listen to prog. I mean, you might be surprised to hear that.
Sending me, these female vocalists in heavy bands, and like, hey, you're gonna like that, and I'm like, well, I mean, I do like female vocalists, but I don't necessarily listen to prog.
Prog.
I've been listening to a lot of have you guys heard about Go Go Penguin?
Oh God, yes.
They're ridiculous. So good.
So cool.
Oh my God, how good they are.
Yes.
There was someone on the Progcast who picked them in the What's in Your Walkman section, but I can't remember who it was. I mean, we had a lot of people on the Progcast during the last month, so
it's so good.
Someone recommended Go Go Penguin.
Yeah, Go Go.
What would be your recommendation, Andy?
Yeah, my album of the year was Celexa Dribs by Kairos. It's prog rock, but it's also got this massive like 80s pop influence. The whole thing is like ridiculously well produced. It's full of hooks. It's great. It's great. Not only did they make my favorite album of the year, but they also put out an EP like 2 weeks ago. So yeah, they've just kind of like dominated my listening for this year, to be honest.
Yeah, Celexa Dreams is easily in my top 5 as well.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous.
Doubt about that.
I don't really listen to prog a lot right now. It's mostly just like
Am I the only prog musician here who listens to prog? Just look out.
Randy, what about you?
Yeah, so I decided to let Apple Music do my picking because I discovered that they also have this end of year thing like Spotify, but you have to like go to a website. It's like complicated, and for such a user friendly iOS, they make that thing difficult. And I went to it today because I knew I had 3 albums that I was sure those were the ones I listened to the most. But then I wanted to see what what science told us, like what I really listened to the most.
The numbers.
And I'll say the 3 because for present company, Virus was one, the new Pain of Salvation album, Panther, but then the one that I had apparently listened to by just a little bit more was the Protest the Hero Palimpsest album, which I don't know if there's any Protest fans. I think they're not always in the prog genre, like maybe more like punk rock and coming from that direction. a Canadian band from Toronto, doing some very fast, melodic, crazy. Yeah, I call it progressive music. Do you guys know Protest the Hero here?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So
I would also consider them
for sure.
proggy, even though I'm not that much into them. Is it like, it's something too upbeat for me.
Okay, yeah, the new record is really, really great, and it spoke to me, I guess, on a few different levels, including like the artwork, which has this sort of American bull, like the Wall Street bull, I guess, like running and with a ripped up. I mean, it's like a lot of allegory, I guess, for the U.S. at the moment, which is kind of funny because they're a Canadian band, but I guess they feel the pressure from the U.S. and it's. I think Rhodey's vocal performance is like one of the best of his career, and I know that it was like a really hard recording cycle for him because he had some medical issues with his voice, and they weren't sure if they were going to be able to finish and stuff. And in the end, I mean, he pushes his vocals in like a new direction, I think, and. Yeah, I mean the dual guitars from Luke and I'm blanking on the second guitar player's name. Thanks, team.
Can't help you there. Sorry.
Great. And the bass is always recorded by somebody other than like a full-time band member, often their producer or something. But definitely check it out. What was funny was that on the same list I had Andrew Lloyd Webber and the new Taylor Swift. So not prog, I guess, but I did have 3 prog albums on the top.
I mean, Andrew Lloyd Webber is pretty prog.
That's
really.
pretty prog, right?
Jesus Christ, superstar! Come on.
Yeah, Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that was my pick.
Yeah. My pick is also not prog at all, but it is amazing. I can't get enough of this album. It's a French artist called Woodkid, and the album's called S16. And I loved his first album. Like, this is 9 years old or so now, and I had no idea that he did a soundtrack in the meantime, and I didn't really follow him because he was kind of out of the prog circle I follow, of course. And then I suddenly saw the first single that he dropped early this year, and I was like, oh my god, there's new stuff from him coming. And then the second single dropped and I was sold, and when the album finally came out, there was even better songs on it still. And I just can't get enough of his voice, and the production is so amazing. Amazing songs, and his vocals are just pure amazingness.
Yeah, I remember when you told me to have that one to share with the Progspace and everything, and I was kind of like listening to it, just like, is this prog? I don't know. Should we share this? But after I got to listen to the album, I did it did seem like something that I feel, especially newcomers to prog, would appreciate in this style. Like I was hearing a bit of Leprous Pitfall's orientation in their sound a little bit, but definitely still a pretty different approach. But I guess the catchy aspect as well, and this the sort of dark vibe that they were kind of giving off just made me realize that similarity, I guess, or that comparison. So I was like, okay, I'll let it slide. It's good.
One thing with with people who listen to prog music is you don't necessarily have to sort of obsess over albums that are considered progressive rock or progressive metal. I feel like people who listen to this kind of stuff are maybe a bit more open-minded about consuming things from anywhere and just playing
I'm obsessing
about
the new Woodkid album. So.
Yeah.
You see, sorry, you first, Colin.
I was going to say that you would think that proggers would generally be more open-minded, but then once they get into the world of prog and then a band decides to not be prog, it's like, no longer prog. I'm not a fan anymore.
I was going to say that when you mentioned Leprous, that's the whole thing with people who listen to them now, isn't it?
I love their new album too, I'm not going to lie.
I've definitely experienced 2 different sides with that, because I when I was in the Enid, which is the band I used to be in, there was a lot of really just stuck in one mindset fans that wouldn't accept anything that didn't sound like it was made before 1979.
Yeah.
And like, to be honest with you, I found that very frustrating, because being a young upcoming artist, really wanted to just do my own thing and apply my own influences. So anything I did do would be met with real scrutiny by those people. Not all the fans, but enough of them to really kind of like make you feel bad about yourself. But then as a solo artist, I found that like I don't like hear from those people anymore. those negative minded people just don't come up. So if they are stuck in the past, then they're staying there. They're not looking at what's happening now. So we can get on with it.
It's fine. They found someone else to complain out for a while, so you're good for now.
Yeah, this year, this crazy year is coming to an end soon, finally, in some ways, as we already established a lot of times that this was an amazing year for prog music and for great music outside of the prog world as well. So looking forward to 2021, is there anything now, again, maybe focus a little bit more on the music side of things, on the side of things where you know of your favorite band or anything that have already announced a release for next year? What's the thing that you're looking forward to the most for next year?
Ross's solo album.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, I did spend some time on that this year, and I did complete it. And at the moment, I'm just building up some promotional material. I don't have a label for it yet. I'm still deciding how I'm going to put that out. But it's ready. It's not particularly prog, actually. So I've kind of come into it as a guitarist, singer, songwriter, more than a singer in a prog band. So it should expand the fan base somewhat. I'll give you an exclusive here. Actually, Simen Sandnes is the drummer on the album.
Ooh.
Nice.
So people can look forward to that. He's done an amazing job, and I can't wait for people to hear it. But unfortunately, I'm going to tease people a little bit longer, and hopefully in like sort of the first quarter of the year, I'll put it out.
Cool. Anything that of your of somebody else that you're aware of that's going to put out new stuff that you can't wait to hear?
Well, I was lucky enough to hear the Transatlantic album already, and it's absolutely incredible, and it's a mammoth of an album. Okay, yeah, I've heard it already, but that's going to be the album I think people are going to be looking forward to in the first couple of months.
I'm very excited.
It's really business as usual, but it's the Whirlwind like Mark II, So if you liked that record, yeah, you're gonna love it.
I'm more a Bridge Across Forever guy, to be honest. Yeah, Simen, you. What are you looking forward to for next year?
Well, Ross's solo album.
Everyone's going to be really disappointed when they hear it.
No, it's so good. It was really, really fun to record on it, and it's so good. And I think a lot of people are expecting it to be more country oriented than it really is. I think that hype it's kind of fun, but it's so good. It's really, really good. And there's a particular I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but there's a particular song which is a cover, which is going to be blowing people's mind.
And it's not going to be from Mariah Carey.
No, that's a different story. That's a different story.
I'm more excited about that actually.
Yeah,
to be honest.
What
if you don't know, we did Ross and I and a bunch of other great prog friends did a cover of Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You" for the Progspace Christmas Festival.
Yes, we're super happy to have it, and I can't wait for the other for the others to see it as well. What about the Arkentype album, dude?
We are. I have recorded drums for the entire album. One of the songs is completely done. It's in mixing process now, and there are 4 more to go until we have like the whole album collected. So there are 5 new songs, and then we're going to collect like the 4 release singles into that album.
I really can't wait. It's been a long time in the waiting, but you've kept us happy with the bits and pieces, the singles over 1.5 or 2 years.
Yeah, and I posted the recorded version of the new song, which we premiered at the Progspace as well. So it's not the final. I put it on the chat here. It's not the final mix, but it's like everything recorded, and it's like a demo mix from Øystein for you to listen if you want to.
Cool, thanks.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to you finally getting that album out.
Same here.
Be good.
It's been soon 3 years.
Yeah,
it's been 2 years now.
To be honest, it feels like I'm waiting for kind of a debut album. It's not going to be the Arkentype debut album, but it's kind of a new band. Right?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's kind of weird because the first album we made it and recorded it in 4 weeks.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was like made from a couple of demos, and then we recorded it, like learned it, recorded it, and sent it to mixing in 4 weeks.
So it's a completely different approach.
It is, which is why it's probably better.
Hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully,
I have full confidence.
So, yeah, and the thing that I really enjoy about the new songs is that we have taken kind of like the unprog, what do you call it, approach to it. By like, I recorded all of the songs in one take. We didn't do any editing. There's been no like fixing or mixing at that stuff. It's all like the real performance, and the band members have also kind of like done their takes as much as possible in one take to kind of like keep that live energy. And when I heard like the demo bounce, I was just like, I was having chills, like, because it was so cool to just hear how the band were playing together and how like those small mistakes kind of are more of a like your own footprint, you know. It's kind of like your own touch, and it was so it's kind of weird to say it about your own music, but it was so refreshing because I had only listened to like the quantized demo versions, because when I recorded it was like half-assed record and everything on grid and super tight and MIDI bass. And when I first listened to everything in its entirety, and it was like this massive just energy bomb hitting you, it was just so good. It was so refreshing because I mean, I did my master's thesis on this subject, and it's just such not a lot of bands in the prog community do that. It's just like,
congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're taking your dislike for not live performances and putting it even to your recordings. So
exactly. So and that's how it was back in the days, you know. Yeah. When you had tape machines, it was only Metallica who could afford to quantize drums. But they spent 6 months on quantizing the back album. So
Gavin Harrison told me on the Progcast that he was used to a recording day of recording 30 songs in one day with the BBC back in 79, 80, around a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I can recommend one prog album from a few years ago, which was all recorded totally live, which was the Intronaut Direction of Last Things. Definitely check that out because I don't know if there are any overdubs, but all the main instruments, guitar, bass, drums, are recorded live.
Pretty sure awesome. Beardfish used to record that way also.
That's awesome.
That would sound like Beardfish. I had the opportunity to see the guys live a couple of times back then, and it was so much fun on the road show tour with Pain of Salvation, and also at the Lorelei. That was good fun. Who wants still to say their wishes or hopes or expectations for next year?
I suppose I could potentially say something. Not to like self-promote or anything, but I mean, obviously now that I mentioned it, it's like, oh, he's going to go and say it. But when I talked about before that I'm basically with Ashbreather, we have like 2 records that we're aiming to have out next year. And I am like, I've been pretty happy with how it's come along with the first album and everything. And also to mention when people were saying albums that were recorded live on the floor, the first album by Ashbreather was also recorded live on the floor, aside from vocals. That was done separately. But, what else could you do? Can't be all perfect with that. But still, it was a fun experience. And we actually aim to continue doing that for future records, except, we have an EP in the works that's going to be recorded separately. But our second full-length album, we're definitely aiming to do a live on the floor thing again. And it's the reason I'm very excited for it, because it is a 35-minute prog death epic sludgy goodness. So, and it's one I'm very, very proud of, and I'm really excited to like when the day comes that we do eventually release it, probably like in the summer or something. I can't say for sure yet, but that's just something I'm very, very excited for. And going to plug in my friend's solo project, Anna Pest. I actually did a review for her album that's coming out at the very start of the new year, January 1st. Is called Dark Arms Reach Skyward with Bone White Fingers. Pretty long title, but it's also quite aggressive. So I wouldn't recommend it to just anyone. You have to be pretty used to extreme music to kind of understand it, because it fuses elements of like progressive metal, but also like death grind, mathcore, tech death. It's a pretty chaotic record, but it's also conceptual and flows from start to finish, and just like all the good things that I love about, boundary pushing progressive extreme music. So if you're into stuff like that and want to hear something like that, just highly recommend. That's going to come out in the new year, and it's going to be probably one of my favorites for sure. Like I'm already like, the new year is going to be awesome.
On January 1st at that.
We're starting the new year right. At least I hope.
I'd like to say something.
Yes, Marjana.
I've been like super quiet, I guess, all the time. I promise to just stay unmuted and smile in the camera. So it's I might be biased, but Gleb is making his next album. That's the piano player for iamthemorning, and partly I am looking forward to it being released, because that means that we'll be able to finally record our next album. So. But it's really interesting though, because a lot of prog music is kind of, music for smart people, or like music for other musicians, which I think might be the case with Gleb's first album and probably with the next one. But whatever I've heard of it is really pretty. But other than that, I was really excited to hear about Raw's solo album, because each time a vocalist from a prog band or any other band goes solo, a star is born. Because, most of the time, I don't know, maybe I'm just judging by myself, but on many occasions, vocalists in the bands are the ones who need everything most, so they do a lot of work. So apart from just writing and recording, they also do a lot of admin stuff and maybe some management or like merch duties. PR. So while they're doing that, other members are having their solo projects recorded. Or at least that was the case with me for like a few years while I was managing iamthemorning. Gleb was releasing solo albums. But it's very nice when a vocalist of a band finds his voice, or her, because it's just, if you like the band, it's almost a definite guarantee that you're going to like the solo project. And it's almost definite that it's going to be different enough from the bands to just, stand on its own. So I'm very excited. I'm very much looking forward to that.
That's really cool. It's a lot of pressure now. I mean, I was very much channeling, not necessarily stylistically, but just the essence of like Peter Gabriel and Phil Collins, and kind of using that mentality as a springboard to what I was doing. So I mean, you hear the voice first, usually as layers, isn't there? When you listen to a band, and so there'll be an instant familiarity. It's exciting to talk about it. I'm actually loving your sort of disco that's going on in your room at the moment.
Yeah.
Kind of all these colors.
It got really dark really quickly here, so I had to improvise, and that's the only line.
It was party time.
One fun little anecdote about Gleb's first solo album. We actually had advertisement for it in the Munich underground metro running on the screens for Gleb's solo album. I was like, wow, that's cool. And last week I was taking the S-Bahn as well, and there I saw an advertisement for Pliny's new album.
Yeah. Crazy.
Joe, how about you? What are you looking forward to next year?
Okay, so I put my hands up and admit that I've not been paying that much attention to what's actually happening with other people next year.
No worries.
I'm a little bit self-involved because I'm trying to make plans of my own.
That's all right.
But there is an album by another artist that I know is going to be amazing because I got to feature on it a little bit, and that is by an artist called John Holden, who's like really very, very unknown to the kind of more mainstream prog world. But this is actually going to be his third album, and I featured quite heavily on his first two, along with a lot of other artists. Who gets a lot of really great names involved in the records that he makes. But this particular track on the new album that I've sung on, it's a 20-minute epic, and I'm barely even on it. I'm only on it for like a little part of it. But it's kind of a duet between me and Peter Jones from Tiger Moth Tales.
Wow.
Who also plays for Camel as well. So that was cool because I've always loved Peter's voice. So that was really nice to kind of do a duet, but it's not just about the duet because it's just 20-minute epic. It's massive. It is absolutely enormous.
You're really teasing here.
So this is gonna be a good one. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, because he's I don't know, he kind of came out of nowhere a few years ago, and he's kind of connected with the prog scene mainly through the fan bases because he's like a big fan of Big Train, so he's like really involved with the community for that and stuff. So he's kind of like managed to build up quite a lot of little connections with musicians and fans, and we all really like him. He's a lovely guy, and yeah, like people should check his stuff out a bit more because it's really got something to it.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that. Sounds amazing. And then Peter Jones, like his voice is so beautiful as well. So that's going to be interesting, that the two of you together.
Yeah, I think so. I really like it. Apparently, because I got his demo through first, and apparently he was going to stick with that, and then I put my vocal on it, and he insisted on doing his again. I think I created some competition for him. I don't know. Oh no, I've made myself go red now. Like my head's probably inflating. Never mind. Stop it. I am a singer. This is what happens. Sorry.
Ego.
Woo.
Andy, what's up?
All good. All good. I'm just just massively entertained by Joe. Fucking cool guy.
So yeah.
It's maybe a bit cheesy, but like I'm just looking forward to everything going back to normal, or like as close to normal as possible next year. There was one release by a band that I think they said they were coming out, but I forgot what it was. So I'm just going to go for. I just want to go to live shows again. I want to see live shows.
Very relatable.
Yeah, I want to do some live shows. Like that was our plan this year. You know, like to try and do something, get on the ground running and things like that. We bought a bunch of gear and all this other stuff, had things booked and collapsed, you know. So hopefully we can try to pick up on that and just get to see all my friends again. Yay.
Yay. Randy.
I already mentioned Ross, but I would say the other album that I'm really looking forward to is Between the Buried and Me. It's one of my favorite bands, and I know that they're in the studio recording right now, so I'm guessing we'll have that in 2021. So yeah, that's probably on my radar.
All right, I think that's only me left, right?
Yep.
I hope I didn't forget anyone. Yeah, there's gonna be a new Need album at the beginning of the year from Greece. There's gonna be a new Vola album soon, hopefully. Tesseract is due since a long time.
Very overdue.
And yeah. What else? There was one more thing. The new Soen album, of course, is also coming at the beginning of the year. So these are the few from the top of my head that I know that are supposedly come out soon and be very good because of the prior merits the bands have earned. And the new Vola single slaps so hard. So if the album is if that's anything to go by about the quality of the whole album, then it's bound to be one of the best albums of next year, right? I think Andy already said it. That's very, very relatable. On our biggest wish for next year is that we'll be able to go out again, meet our friends, and play live shows, go to live shows. Thank you so much, all of you, for taking your time and having this fun little chat. I had a lot of fun. It was a little bit stressful keeping this all together, of course. But
I found it very relaxing.
Yeah, me too.
What are you talking about, Dario?
Taking the whole time.
Thank you so much for taking the time. Have a great holiday, Christmas time, however you are able to spend it, and have an amazing start into the next year, 2021. I hope to see all of you back on this show whenever you guys have a new release ready. So we're going to talk about that. Thank you to Randy for producing this thing together with me in the background, helping me since you've pushed me into the foreground a little bit more. And,
my evil plan.
Yeah, thanks to you guys, because congratulations on 100 episodes, and long may it continue. And thank you for supporting our music and our genre and keeping it alive. We couldn't do it without you guys. So
absolutely.
Thank you so much. The biggest heart.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty overwhelmed by what we've accomplished and where this journey led us. I had no idea when I started this together with Randy about 2 years ago. So this is so amazing, and this wouldn't have been possible without all these amazing artists who took their time and gave us a glimpse into their artistic work and their approach. And so a huge thank you to all the bands and artists that were guests here on the Progcast. A huge thank you to you, Randy, for taking me on this journey and always pushing me as a producer. Big thank you also to Rune, who took over for a couple of episodes, and I hope we can continue this in the next year. A huge thank you to Van and Matthias, who stepped in or stepped up with the graphics once we expanded to the YouTube platform as well. And also a big thank you to all the P&R agents and managements that made it possible that we had so many amazing guests on here. So I hope I didn't forget anyone. Starting off with Manuel from Head of PR, Simon for The Lost, Hannah and Matt at Hold Tight, Eli from Wild Thing, Sonia from CMM, Lulu from Incendia, Alan from Go Down Believing, Manuel at Long Branch Records, Leonie and Anne at Nuclear Blast, Sydney at AFM Records, Andy Turner at Palmer Turner Overdrive, Letitia, Jessica and Katie at Season of Mist, and Kalle at Gentle Out of Music. Thank you all so much for the great work and the great collaboration. I'm speechless now. This is the end of the Progcast for 2020. So yeah, we will return in 2021. Stay tuned for the Progcast in the new year. Until then, have a great start into the great new year, into a great new year. May it be as amazing in all the other departments as 2020 was amazing in the prog music department. I don't know if that makes sense. Anyway, I think there's only one thing left to say, and that is take care of your loved ones, take care of yourself as well, and don't forget to listen to great music.
The Progcast is a production of Stewis Media and is presented by the Progspace. It is produced by Randy M. Salo, Janine Stangel-Lewis, Blake Lewis, and Dario Albrecht. Our theme music is by This Is Not an Elephant, and Van Kirsch does our graphics. New episodes of the Progcast drop every Monday and Thursday. And don't miss our Friday Top 5 episode, where we discuss our favorite new releases from that week. For more interviews and reviews in the written form, check out theprogspace.com.